I can't believe you're asking me.
Hi guys, so I am back with another one of my mums. I know it has been a really long time since I posted something, but like I mentioned before in my last vlog, I unfortunately lost my memory card and I lost a lot of footage, so I'm really sorry. So we've actually done this interview before, but this is my sister, so that's handy. So it's actually quite easy for me to, you know, get the interview done again, and hopefully it will be smooth and painless. But yeah, so if you guys have been watching my channel, please subscribe. I've been interviewing mothers and people talking about the pregnancies and the challenges that they've had with childbirth and all that stuff. And I wanted to touch on a subject that is very important, and that is actually the loss of a pregnancy. And a lot of women do go through this. A lot of people don't talk about it, they don't share it, and I just think it's something that, you know, I wanted to shed a light on, because I know a few people that it's happened to, and it's awful, especially when it's someone close to you, just to see how they've worked through it. So I just thought it was very important to talk about it. And so, like I said, this is my sister, Shola. Hi. Hello. She's going to do most of the talking, so I'm going to stop rambling on. But I just wanted her to tell you guys her story. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this again. Just to share her story. She's the mother of 3 beautiful children now. She's got twins, a boy and girl, they're 9, and the youngest is 4 years old. And I just wanted to I want her to share her story of basically what happened. So, okay. Where you'd like to start, basically, yeah.
Gosh, where to start?
I know, it's been a long time.
Yeah, it has been. But, well, as Darko said, my twins are 9 years old. They're going to be 10 next year. So I guess this happened about 10, 11 years ago. It was the year before I had the twins. And yeah, it had taken me a long time, a while to get pregnant. I was very eager and I'm very excited, obviously, when I found out that, you know, I was pregnant. And yeah, you know, it's one of those things that when I look back on it now, it almost seems like a dream. But at the time, it was just very... You know, everything seemed to be fine.
Yeah. So it's your first pregnancy.
First pregnancy, and
everything's going well. You're excited. You're planning.
Exactly. But you know, I did that thing where I didn't tell anybody
for the first trimester.
First trimester, other than, you know, family. You know, I was quite. You know, I felt like I did all the right. My husband and I now just said, look, we wanted to go on holiday. And we wanted to, but we didn't want to go too far because I was pregnant, and we wanted to go to somewhere that would have good medical facilities in the unlikely event that we would need it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, in the UK, we're like, oh, it's winter, you don't want to go too far. Where can you go that's actually going to be warm, that's going to have the sort of medical facilities that you would like? And randomly we decided on Israel. And then we had this whole very fantastic itinerary planned, and we're just going to have the best time, and then we're going to come back, and then, you know, I just have the babies, and, you know, we just live happily ever after.
Yep.
As you do. And everything was...
As a lot of couples do.
As, you know, at least as you think you do.
Exactly.
And everything was fine again. But it was interesting, you know, when I look back on it now, I definitely had what I would call twinges. I didn't know.
Was this before you travelled?
Maybe before we travelled, but definitely from the minute we got there. Okay. And it wasn't pain. It wasn't pain, but it was like, how to explain it? Like muscle, like pulling.
You see, the funny thing is, you say that, but it's like people have that, and then they go on and they have children, and nothing. Because I mean, throughout my entire pregnancy, I just felt all sorts, and you know. So, and it's interesting that you say, in hindsight, you look back and you think, were those? I mean, I guess in that case, in your case, it was signs that something was to happen.
Exactly, because every time, you know, and I think I might have been to see the doctor. Well, definitely when we got to Israel, we were in Tel Aviv. You know, I I was like, I was uncomfortable. It wasn't quite pain, but it was, you know, I wasn't quite well. But it was still quite early days. I think at this point we were like maybe 14, 15, 16 weeks.
Okay.
So there's no kicking or anything like that. So nothing to go on. And we went to see a gynecologist while we were there, and he was like, you know, everything's fine. There's no problem. And then the next day, I was like, something is wrong. I'm in pain, and at this point I now started having a bleed. It was very small, but you know, at first I thought, okay, let me just wait. I'll give it half an hour, give it an hour. If it's just, you know how it is, if you just wipe and it's just a little bit of pink, then fine. But if it's, you know, give it an hour and see. And then it just wasn't getting any better. So my husband and I now went, and there was no, like, in Tel Aviv we'd seen like a gynecologist in a clinic. This time we actually had to go to the hospital. All I remember was just like, they were just like, in fact, actually I think I've got a bit of a blank at this point.
So it's like
because the next thing I know, I was being admitted. And I think they were admitted, they told me that they just wanted to keep me in for observation.
But do you think they were saying that not to alarm you?
Yeah, because they told my husband they didn't think I was going to make it the break beyond that night.
The baby?
Yeah.
Wow, okay.
And he only told me that like much later.
After, okay.
So at this point though, even though they were trying to like be nice and keep me calm, I was already hyperventilating, I was already crying, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? And they're like, no, everything's fine. They now gave me, they said essentially I had gone into preterm labor. I was contracting.
And that's what you were feeling before.
Yeah, exactly. And I was contracting, but it was obviously way too early. So they gave me some drip thing, which was to try and slow the contractions down. They gave me these suppositories. Not nice, but you know, to calm me down. And that was it. And then I kind of, you know, slept, and you know, but then the next day I was still pregnant. So what
were they saying at this point?
At this point, so I can't really remember. I just know that everybody went to a lot of effort to make me feel better.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't let me go.
Okay.
It was like they were going to keep me in the hospital.
Okay, to monitor you to see what's going to happen.
So that was the end of my holiday.
Okay.
I was now moved into another ward. I was moved into like a maternity ward, and it was like the weirdest, most surreal.
Ward where people are giving birth.
Yes. But there were all sorts of women there. So there were some women there having babies, some who had problems. You know, it was all, you know, it's weird. It was weird.
Okay. So when did you get discharged, and what were they saying at that point?
So a couple of days later, I am lying down. At this point, I'm used to being in the hospital. My husband stays with me during the day, then he goes back to the hotel room, and then comes back. While he was away, I think this was like very, very early in the morning. Let's say it was a Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'm lying on the bed, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I just done? I feel like I've just wet myself. How is this possible? This doesn't make sense, because I didn't feel like I wanted to.
Yeah.
And I was very embarrassed. So I just zipped it. Who's gonna know? And then about 10 minutes later or 5 minutes later, I felt the same thing again. And this time I knew it wasn't me, because I had no urge to go, and yet I could feel liquid. And I just knew, I was just like, oh my God, I feel like my waters have broken. And I told the nurses, and they said, no, don't worry. And I was really insistent. And they had this doctor called Dr. Zabari, and we used to call him the Great Zabari, because no one would ever do anything until, you know, Dr. Zabari has to see. Dr. Zabari has to see. So we had to wait for Dr. Zabari to come. And when he did another one of those internal exams, and he was like, yes, in fact, that is true. My waters are broken. But I was having twins. And it had only broken on one sac. So one baby was absolutely fine, the other one was losing fluid. And he goes, essentially what this means is the baby can continue to grow, but without the amniotic fluid, they can basically have like injuries. They can have broken arms, legs, whatever, because the fluid is what allows them to move freely. Without it, they're constricted. And then of course there's the other issue of infection. You know, it now becomes possible for you to get infection. So the whole time I had been in hospital, my husband had got in touch with the insurance company to try and, you know, get us back home, because Obviously, we had to change our flights, but we also incurred all these expenses because of staying at the hotel, and and it's one of the few times where I like take out travel insurance. Really, if you can, it is the most important. You never know when you're going to need it because they covered all of our expenses.
Oh, wow.
The only thing they didn't cover was the cost of all the phone calls we were making to mummy and everything. But and then they wouldn't. So it was not like we were going to go back and then again additional drama. They wouldn't. We couldn't just go back. They were like, no. They had to now send a doctor from the UK to come to Israel and to basically
so you have to fly
accompany.
You have to fly with the doctor, okay?
Essentially, because if anything was to go wrong, if I went into labour on the plane,
okay.
For all of these issues, so they needed a doctor to basically be able to vouch for me and say that I was safe to fly and would know how to deal with me.
In case, okay.
So we eventually got back to Scotland, and I went to the hospital there, and and I was told to basically not do too much lifting. I wasn't on bed rest, but just be careful.
Yeah.
So I think by the time we came back from Israel, I was about 17 weeks pregnant. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So it was a month.
So
later,
a month of one baby is fine in full amniotic fluid. Yeah. The other baby is the amniotic fluid is leaking. But the baby is still alive. And they're just managing the situation.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
And then around 21 weeks, again, I can't remember what happened, but maybe it was pain, maybe it was bleeding, I don't know. But I ended up going back into hospital again. And it was, I think I must have been bleeding, Sarah. And I remember it didn't happen immediately.
Yeah.
I was there, and I'd been there for a couple of days, and then I went into labour. But of course, at that point, I didn't know I'd gone into labour. I was just like in a lot of pain. I had backache, and that was it. And I was in this room, and then I remember just by the time the pain really started to kick in, I was like, and the nurses the midwives just told me this is what was happening. And I said, okay. And I think I'd already been, because I knew this was a very strong possibility. I don't think I panicked at that point.
Okay.
I was still quite calm. Let's see, I now asked them, can I have some pain relief? And so they laugh at me, but she's like, darling, we only give pain relief. They only give pain relief for the women whose babies are going to survive.
That's what they said.
They don't say it like that, but essentially.
Wow.
So it wasn't actually, to be honest, I think the level of pain that I was experiencing
compared to
I now compare it to what I now went to, it wasn't, but at the time it was a lot of pain.
Yeah.
So and it is actually labor. You have to push.
Okay, so you get to the hospital, you're admitted, they're telling you you're going into labor, and so you said that you're not. It's like you kind of were prepared. You knew it was a possibility.
But I was thinking.
But are you thinking, okay, I'm going to give birth, and then the babies are going to be in an incubator? Is that what you're thinking, or what are you actually thinking?
I don't know.
At this point,
I was really thinking very much. I think I already knew that it was there wasn't going to be a positive outcome, but. I don't know. I mean, you know how it is now. When you're going through labour pains, there isn't really much.
You're not really thinking about. You're just going through the pain. Okay, yeah.
And I just remember it being very hard, very painful, and I.
So you pushed, and one baby came out.
One baby came out.
Didn't hear anything. No cry. Yeah. Okay.
And that was it. And
then what about the other baby?
Well, the other baby was fine. But, the other thing that happened was, push one baby came out, but then there was a lot of liquid. There's just a lot of fluid that came out. And remember, at this point I was 21 weeks. Anyway, I'm assuming, I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think I was obviously very distraught. But then, I think it became very evident soon on that there was another baby still there. And so, of course, hope kicks in.
So, was that the baby, the first baby that came out, was that the baby who had lost amniotic fluid?
Yeah.
Right. So, but the other baby is
basically all of the pressure of the labor had now forced the
second baby
to
rupture.
And so, and then we now had this very surreal situation where they were definitely going to keep me in because once again, it was all the same issues. Another sac has ruptured, a lot of liquid has been lost, there's a potential for infection, but also I was now close to viability. I was now heading for 22 weeks. And 24 weeks is the point of viability when the doctors have a chance of being able to interfere.
Save the baby.
And so they now had neonatal specialists, all sorts of people come to speak to us.
And the thing is, with that hope, you're telling yourself, oh, if we can just manage this for
exactly.
3 more weeks,
that's
I'm going to get a baby out of
literally all
this.
we were thinking. I just have to hang in there. Just another week, just another couple of weeks, everything will be fine. But even then, the doctors were still trying to say to us, look, even if you make it to 24 weeks, the quality of life of the baby is going to be greatly compromised. But at that point you're just like,
no,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You'll find a way. It'll be different for you.
Yeah.
But anyway, we didn't make it. It was about maybe 3-4 days later.
And you were still in hospital.
Still in hospital. And this time, I knew exactly what was happening because
so
of course by
this
point,
you already been in labour already.
Exactly. And it was the same thing. And and that was it. I had to go through labour again, had the second, and again I don't think that baby lived at all. And that was it. And then when did we leave? Was it the next day or the day after? 2 days later? It might have even been the next day, or maybe the day after, 2 days after. But the hospital, they're amazing. I cried. Eventually couldn't cry anymore. I was a bit numb. And I'm going to show you this box that they gave us, which I thought was really beautiful because, we left with nothing. We came expecting to leave with 2 babies and you leave with nothing. So they want to give you something. And I think it's different if you actually get to the point of viability. You have, your children, they're legally, they are children. So you have to give them, you have to register their births.
Yeah.
But
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
At 22 weeks, you're not quite. So we gave them names, but they seized, they were not, it was still technically a miscarriage. And apparently what I had was called the premature rupture of the membranes. Anyway, so they gave us this box, which was just very sweet, with these little, little teddy bears and little, just stuff.
What?
Oh, I feel like crying.
Oh,
no, I won't cry.
I mean, no, you can.
No, I don't want to cry. It was really nice. It was really nice of them. And then and this was like info about, because they asked us if we wanted to have a service, which we did, and it was just a cremation service, and it was literally just the people who worked there, myself and my husband. But we had some readings and we had some songs, and
I think also that's good. I mean, I know it doesn't work for everyone. Also in the healing process,
it's really necessary because it's very. I mean, there was 2 things. Basically, there's the actual physical act of losing the baby, but then there's the coming to terms with the sort of emotional and the mental state afterwards, and coming to terms with your loss. Because what amazed me, things I didn't realise. First of all, I didn't realise how many women had been through a miscarriage. It wasn't until I'd been through it that suddenly everybody's like, oh, well, this happened to me and that happened to me. I'm like, what?
How come
nobody ever talks about it? I don't understand. And I get it in some ways because it is about new life. So, nobody talks about the loss, and because obviously people want, it's the start of a new life. Everybody wants to be positive. Nobody wants to scare you. But I don't know. I think there must be a way to talk about it in a way that allows people to at least be prepared for the possibility of it. It's not a negative thing to be prepared, but still be optimistic and hopeful about a positive outcome. So that was one of my takeaways, was just, wow, so many women have gone through this and they don't speak about it. And because they don't speak about it, you don't like.
You don't. What do you do?
What do you do? A week after I lost my pregnancy, I felt lumps in my breast. I now thought that, I was like, oh my gosh, have I got cancer? Have I got breast cancer? So I ran to the doctor. And, you know, it sounds so stupid, right? Because I should have clicked, but I hadn't clicked.
But that's the thing. Why would you click? Because, like you said, you've gone to the hospital, you come back, you come out without children.
Exactly.
And so you're not thinking about, and then you're now left with the symptoms of somebody who has a newborn.
Because normally if you've gone through a pregnancy successfully, at least here in the UK, health visitors will come over, they'll speak to you, they'll tell you what's going to happen. There was none of that. So I went to the hospital, I went to the doctor and I was like, what's going on? I have lumps. And she just looked at me, she just felt so sorry for me. She was just like, I think this is your milk coming in. And then that was it. I was just in floods of tears. It was like, oh my goodness, I don't understand. Why am I, you know, why is my body producing milk? But it's because, you know, I was technically, I had gone into labor, you know, and all of these things just kick in naturally. So that was a bit traumatic. And it was just the grieving process. So it was the realization people don't talk about it. Then after I talked about it, and everyone that I loved and cared about, I'd spoken to, I then started feeling guilt for not healing fast enough. For not, because I just felt now like, well, you know, like you're kind of like burdening people with your pain.
But did anyone ever say anything to you, or you just felt like, I think life is moving on, people are getting on with it?
Exactly. And it's like, what else can I say? Because there was nothing else to say on the subject. There was nothing. I had talked about it, I talked about it. None of it. There is a certain amount of healing that you just have to do by yourself. And it's hard. And it's not that people didn't want to help. It was, I guess part of it was me. I didn't want to be a burden, but also I didn't know how people could help. So I just...
Did you find it easier talking to people who'd maybe been through it? And also, I think there's talking to someone who's had a miscarriage, where you don't giving birth part
is that's
the next level, because that's when you're further along.
Exactly.
You know, did you find it helpful talking to someone who'd perhaps been in that sort of situation?
Absolutely. But you know, sometimes when you talk about your things that you've been through, your pain, that sometimes do you feel like there can be like almost a pecking order in terms of, well, okay, that's bad, but you know, but I know someone who didn't have to go through, as if you didn't have a stillborn, and you know, and you can just sometimes you just feel better just kind of keeping your stuff to yourself.
So maybe that is the reason why some people just tend to, because you're right, if you're talking to someone and they say, well, at least, you know, but it's your own pain. There's no, well, at least I didn't have, or I didn't get to 36 weeks and then, you know.
Or they're telling you, because everybody wants to make you feel better. So everybody's already telling you about, but don't worry, you're young, you're going to have another baby.
But that's not the point.
It's not the point, because you still need to go through the process of grieving for what you've lost, because you know, you were already a mother in your head.
Of course. No, I remember coming to see you guys in Scotland, and you had your cribs. You had two sets.
Every year. We had the cribs. We had, you know, so much.
So I have a question. When all of that happened, did you regret telling people that you were pregnant? I mean, I don't know. I can't remember if you told a lot of people.
I haven't told a lot of people, but you know, once we got past, you know, the first trimester, we, you know, talked because we were excited, we were so happy. I don't regret it, because I think this is my nature, this is the way I am, and even with the twins, I didn't do it differently.
Then when you were pregnant again, it didn't stop you?
It didn't. I was probably, you know, maybe I waited a little bit longer, but you know, eventually you have to do it because your body shows. So I think I went definitely with the second time around. When I was pregnant the second time, I thought, well, am I going to live in fear, or am I going to just really embrace this? Obviously, I was probably a little bit more circumspect than I would have been the first time around, you know, but I try to just embrace the whole thing. Oh, something else that I forgot. in terms of, you know, the kind of comments that people made that made things difficult to kind of come to terms with. I had one person say, well, when I now got pregnant with the Tamara, they said, well, next time
don't
travel. And I thought, gosh, that's a really mean thing to say, because you're almost trying to make it seem like it's my fault.
Oh,
I got on a plane, so it is my fault. I'm responsible for this. Whereas it's got nothing to do with that. You know.
And I think I'm very happy you brought that up, because with a lot of women that this has happened to. That's probably another reason why people don't talk about it, because of the shaming and the blaming.
Yes.
And it tends to be on the woman that, oh, why did you travel? But who said I traveled up and down for checkups when I was pregnant? And I remember in my head thinking, something now happens. I'm now going to think it's because I traveled.
Exactly.
But
it had, you know, absolutely nothing
because
to do
if flying is a risk for that particular pregnancy, your doctor will tell you.
Exactly.
And then if you choose to fly, then that's your business.
Doctors will tell you. Also, airlines won't let you. Won't let pregnant women get on the plane. You know, they have very clear rules about how, at what stage, how far along exactly. So that was another thing that I found quite sort of unpalatable. And then, but the other thing I thought was interesting was just the fact that my husband and I grieve very differently, and grieved at very different times.
Your spouse deals with it as well.
Yeah, and I think that's an issue, because I, as a woman, I just kind of broke down. I cried. I didn't shower. I was at home for days. You know, whereas he was very much kind of like, okay, I'm going to go to work now. And I remember thinking, so weird. What's the matter with you? But you know, I think he felt very much that he had to just be strong for me. And then around the time that I was now beginning to come out of it, he now started it seemed to be falling apart. And I was like, this is very odd. And also I think I was, you know, a lot younger then. I think it didn't occur to me until we went through it that it was something we had both lost. You know, although it is...
Because it's your body.
Yeah, it's your body. You think it's just happened to you, but it hasn't. Because your partner also had all these hopes and dreams and aspirations. So
that's a good point.
It's quite important, I think. I think the biggest takeaway I had from that was, you know, women need to talk more. You have to allow yourself to grieve. But you really have to be there for each other as a couple, and recognize that you know what each of you needs, because you both want to be there for each other and coming out of it at the same time, because you want to try again. And that was for me the biggest thing.
And just really quickly to round off, if there's, you know, the women at home that are watching this that are possibly going through this, or they've gone through it, how do you get to that point where what advice would you give to someone who is willing to try again, or wants to try again, or is possibly scared and is thinking, oh, the same thing's going to happen, maybe I shouldn't bother? What sort of advice would you give to that person?
I mean, I think obviously all the circumstances are different. You know, it depends on, you know, what happened that led to you losing the pregnancy, because, you know, for some people it's a congenital issue. You know, it's something that they know will recur. So, you know, there could be a lot of fear. In my case, I was told very clearly that it was completely random. It could have happened to anybody. And so there was no need to believe that with a second pregnancy it
was going to happen.
So they would obviously monitor me more closely. But, and actually, I was absolutely fine. For me, I would just say that if it's, as long as you know that there are no issues for you in getting pregnant, I think time is the greatest healer. You need to give yourself the time that you need to really come to terms with the loss. But you know, it's this thing about, you know, how do you want to live your life? Do you want to live in fear, or do you want to live in hope? You know, I knew that I wanted a baby. I knew I wanted to be a mother, and I knew that I was capable. My body could do it. Okay, it had failed me that time, but it wasn't my fault. It wasn't anything that I did. It was just one of those freak things that can happen. So if I wanted to be a mother, all I had to do was try again. And I think you just have to keep your eye on the prize. What is it that you want? If it's important to you, if you want it badly enough, then you'll know when the time is right. And I did, and you know, I think I actually got there faster than my husband, and I was ready.
Yeah.
Very, very ready. And then when I got pregnant again, I was, just as happy. As I said, we were a little bit more cautious, but I tried to enjoy it, try to embrace
the
it.
pregnancy.
And nothing happened. I spent a lot of that time, every time I'd go to see the midwives, be like, is my blood pressure high? Is there this? Is there that? Still waiting for the disaster around the corner. But it never came. Everything went fine. I got to 37 weeks and I had 2 beautiful babies. So, all I would say is, if it's what you want, you just got to try again, push through. There is no other way but through.
That's it. Fantastic. Shana, thank you so much for doing this interview again. And you guys, once you've seen the edited version, you will know that my camera keeps failing me for some unknown reason. But anyway, the devil is a liar. But thank you so much. And I really hope that this is helping and has helped some women out there who are possibly going through the same thing. Take care of yourselves. God bless. And remember to subscribe. Bye.